never knew why the demons asked Jesus for the pigs. What drives a legion of demons to beg for mercy? And why, of all creatures, did they desperately want to enter a herd of pigs? When Jesus stepped onto the shores of the Gadarenes, he encountered not just one demon, but thousands. And what happened next reveals a chilling truth about the spiritual realm that most people completely miss. These demons weren't just asking for any random favor. They knew something that made them prefer the bodies of unclean animals over their fate without a host. What were these dark forces so afraid of? Why did they choose pigs? And more importantly, what does this tell us about the unseen battles happening around us every day? The answer lies in an ancient understanding that many modern readers overlook, and once you grasp it, you'll never read this story the same way again. This isn't just about a miraculous exorcism. It's about a profound spiritual truth hidden in plain sight. The initial confrontation between Jesus and Satan ended in Jesus' triumph over temptations, as detailed in Matthew 4:1-11. He then continues to penetrate and conquer two of Satan's primary territories: the spiritual realm by exercising authority over demons, as seen in Matthew 8:28-34, and the domain of illness by healing a paralyzed man in Matthew 9:1-8. After the calming of a fierce storm on the Sea of Galilee, Jesus and his disciples found themselves in the region of the Gerasenes. This encounter, recounted in Matthew chapter 8, verses 28-34, stands as a testament to Jesus' power over the spiritual realm, revealing his authority over demonic forces. Upon reaching the shore, Jesus encountered two demon-possessed men. Their condition was severe, rendering them violent and dangerous, outcasts dwelling among the tombs. However, what is most striking about this encounter is not the men's state, but the demons' reaction to Jesus' presence. The Gospel of Mark provides a detailed account of this interaction. It reveals that the man was possessed by a multitude of demons, calling themselves Legion, a terrifying indication of their collective power. These unclean spirits, upon recognizing Jesus as the Son of God, were overcome with fear. They knew Jesus possessed the authority to command them, even to send them into the abyss, a place of eternal torment. The two men were so violent that no one could pass through the area. They cried out, "What do you have to do with us, Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before the appointed time?" Nearby, a large herd of pigs was grazing. The demons pleaded with Jesus, "If you cast us out, send us into the herd of pigs." He responded, "Go." The demons left the men and entered the pigs, and the entire herd rushed down a steep hill into the lake and drowned. Those tending the pigs fled to the town and reported everything, including the incident with the demon-possessed men. Soon, the entire town came out to meet Jesus. When the townspeople saw him, they begged him to leave their area. Matthew further emphasizes Jesus' identity by answering the pressing question, "What kind of man is this?" They arrived on the other side of the sea, in the region of the Gerasenes, which is primarily Gentile, explaining the presence of pigs, an animal deemed unclean by the Jews. As Jesus entered the region of the Gadarenes, he was met by two demon-possessed men emerging from the tombs, as described in Mark 5:1-20 and Luke 8:26-39. In Mark 5:1-20, they reached the other side of the sea, in the region of the Gerasenes, and a man with an unclean spirit emerged from the tombs to meet Jesus. This man lived in the tombs, and no one could bind him even with chains. Though he had been chained hand and foot many times, he always broke the chains and shattered the irons on his feet. No one was strong enough to restrain him. Day and night, he wandered the tombs and hills, crying out and cutting himself with stones. When he saw Jesus from afar, he ran and knelt before him, shouting, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? In God's name, don't torture me." For Jesus had commanded the spirit to leave the man. Then Jesus asked, "What is your name?" The spirit answered, "My name is Legion, for we are many." The demons begged Jesus repeatedly not to send them out of the area. A large herd of pigs was feeding nearby on the hillside, and the demons pleaded with Jesus, "Send us into the pigs, let us enter them." Jesus permitted it, and the impure spirits left the man and entered the pigs. The herd, about 2,000 in number, rushed down the steep slope into the lake and drowned. The pig herders fled and spread the news throughout the town and countryside. When the people came to see what had happened, they found the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons sitting calmly, dressed, and in his right mind. And they were frightened. Those who had witnessed the event explained what had happened to the demon-possessed man, including the fate of the pigs. The townspeople then begged Jesus to leave their region. As Jesus was getting into the boat, the man who had been freed from the demons begged to go with him. But Jesus did not allow him, instead telling him, "Go home to your people and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has shown you mercy." The man went and began spreading the word in the Decapolis about what Jesus had done for him, and everyone who heard it was amazed. Large crowds from Galilee, the Decapolis, Jerusalem, Judea, and the region across the Jordan followed Jesus. The situation was perilous because the two men were so violent that no one could pass through. They were well known and feared by the people. The demons, like Satan, immediately recognized Jesus as the Son of God, as mentioned in Matthew 4:3-6. This title would later be used by the disciples when they fully realized his uniqueness as the one whom the Father declared to be his beloved Son, as seen in Matthew 16:16, 14:33, 3:17, and 17:5. From the demons, however, this title reflects their recognition that yet another of Satan's strongholds, the spiritual realm, was being overtaken. The demons, unlike the disciples in verse 27, already knew who Jesus was. Nevertheless, despite their understanding, they remained demons. Knowing who Jesus is while still hating him is demonic. The question the demons asked Jesus can be interpreted as both harsh and fearful, depending on the context. In Mark 1:24, it is expressed with a tone of fear and hostility. The title Son of God should likely be understood in its fullest sense. The demons acknowledged Jesus not only for his power, but also for his identity as the Messiah, the Son of God. The second question implies that the demonic forces will face eternal torment and rejection, as described in Jude 6. By posing this question, they acknowledge that Jesus is the one who will carry out this judicial role at the appointed time, affirming the full meaning of Son of God. Jesus restricting their actions before the appointed time suggests that his expulsion of demons was a sign of the kingdom's near arrival. These demons seem fully aware of a predetermined time for Satan's forces to be judged. They cry out, "What do you want with us, Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before the time?" This question hints at the approaching kingdom, along with the invasion and defeat of Satan's territories. Although the final judgment awaits Jesus' return in glory, as referenced in Matthew 4:17 and Matthew 12:28. 34. The demons beg Jesus to grant their request, which he does. After being granted permission by Jesus, the demons depart from the men and enter the herd of pigs. Upon entering the pigs, the herd went mad and charged off a cliff into the Sea of Galilee. Ironically, the demons' effort to avoid eternal torment led to the destruction of their earthly hosts. Jesus had no reason to deny their request, since it aligned with his objectives. First, it resulted in the men's deliverance from the demons. Second, since pigs were considered unclean in Jewish tradition, they served as a fitting symbol and temporary refuge for the demons. Third, granting their request did not affect the demons' final fate on the day of judgment. Therefore, Jesus agreed to their proposal, as the demons were ultimately accomplishing his will. More importantly, Jesus was not sinning by accepting the demon's suggestion. On the other hand, Jesus' encounter with Satan in the wilderness was completely different. If Jesus were to yield to Satan's demands, he would be led into disobedience. As a result, Jesus rebuked Satan with the scriptures and refused to give in to his demands. A crucial distinction exists between Jesus' encounter with Satan in the wilderness and his interaction with the demons who possessed the men in the region of the Gerasenes. This distinction lies not in the nature of the beings involved, for both Satan and the demons represent spiritual forces opposed to God, but in the nature of their requests and the potential consequences of Jesus' responses. The episode of the Gerasene demoniac, a narrative recounted with vivid detail in the Gospels of Mark 5:1-20, Matthew 8:28-34, and Luke 8:26-39, stands as a powerful testament to Jesus' authority over the spiritual realm and his unwavering compassion for those suffering under the weight of demonic oppression. This encounter, set against the backdrop of a Gentile region, unveils profound truths about the nature of spiritual warfare, the human response to the miraculous, and the universal reach of Jesus' redemptive power. The story unfolds with Jesus arriving in the region of the Gerasenes, a place known for its pagan culture, and a stark contrast to the predominantly Jewish areas where Jesus primarily ministered. There, amidst the tombs that lined the outskirts of town, resided a man utterly tormented by a legion of demons. This was no ordinary case of demonic influence. The Gospel writers paint a vivid picture of the man's suffering. He lived naked among the tombs, his cries echoing through the hills, his body scarred by self-inflicted wounds. Bound with chains, he had repeatedly broken free, his immense strength a testament to the overwhelming power of the demonic forces that held him captive. Upon encountering Jesus, the man, driven by the legion within, ran towards him and fell at his feet. The demons, recognizing Jesus as the Son of the Most High God, were overcome with terror. Their question, "Have you come to torment us before the appointed time?" reveals their understanding of Jesus' divine authority and their fear of the judgment he could unleash. When Jesus inquired about the man's name, the demons responded, "Legion, for we are many." This chilling response, referencing a Roman military unit comprised of thousands of soldiers, underscored the overwhelming nature of the man's affliction. The demons, desperate to avoid being sent into the abyss, the place of eternal torment, pleaded with Jesus to allow them to enter a nearby herd of pigs feeding on the hillside. This seemingly unusual request held deeper significance. Pigs, considered unclean animals according to Jewish law, represented impurity. To the demons, these creatures presented a more desirable dwelling place than the abyss and a temporary reprieve from judgment. Jesus, in a display of his absolute authority, granted their request. The consequences were immediate and dramatic. As if seized by a sudden madness, the entire herd, some 2,000 strong, rushed headlong down the steep bank into the sea, drowning in the turbulent waters. This event, shocking in its scale and intensity, served as a visible demonstration of the unseen spiritual realm colliding with the physical world. News of the event spread quickly, drawing the townspeople to the site. What they witnessed, however, filled them not with awe and gratitude, but with fear and trepidation. They saw the man who had been so utterly tormented, now clothed and in his right mind, sitting calmly at Jesus' feet. They heard the herdsmen recount the sudden frenzy that had seized the pigs, leading to their destruction. Yet, instead of embracing the miracle before them, they were overwhelmed by the implications. They saw the loss of their valuable livestock, a blow to their livelihood and security. They sensed a power in Jesus that challenged their understanding, a force that seemed both wondrous and terrifying. Driven by a fear of the unknown and a desire to maintain the familiar order of their lives, they pleaded with Jesus to leave their region. This reaction, while disheartening, reveals a profound truth about human nature: our capacity to resist change, even when that change represents healing and liberation. The townspeople, blinded by fear and preoccupied with worldly concerns, failed to recognize the true significance of what had transpired. They chose the security of the familiar over the uncertainty of embracing the divine. The significance of this difference is paramount. Jesus, in allowing the demons to enter the pigs, was not granting them victory or endorsing their malevolent nature. He was, in essence, utilizing their request as part of a larger redemptive act. This act, however, while bringing freedom to the possessed men, had far-reaching consequences. The pigs, no longer wild but domesticated animals raised for profit, represented a significant economic investment for their owners. Their sudden destruction, a direct result of the demon's presence, would have had a devastating financial impact on the community. Mark, in his Gospel 5:13, estimates the herd's size at around 2,000, a staggering loss that would have sent shockwaves through the region. This destruction, orchestrated by the demons, reveals a darker aspect of their nature, a desire not just to inhabit, but to corrupt and destroy, to inflict suffering on both humans and the world they inhabit. Their request to enter the pigs, then, takes on a more sinister meaning. It wasn't merely about finding a temporary dwelling. It was about inflicting maximum damage, fueling hostility towards Jesus, and undermining his mission by turning the community against him. This strategy aligns with the demonic tendency to exploit human weakness and sow discord, as evidenced in other gospel accounts where they incite fear, illness, and oppression. Matthew 17:14, 20. The townspeople's reaction to the pigs' destruction reveals the tragic effectiveness of this tactic. Instead of rejoicing in the liberation of the possessed men, they are gripped by fear and anger, driven by their economic loss. Their plea for Jesus to leave exposes a heart-wrenching truth. They value their material possessions more than spiritual liberation, choosing the familiar comfort of their pig-based economy over the challenging presence of the Savior. This preference for pigs over Jesus, as commentators have noted throughout history, speaks to a recurring human flaw, a tendency to prioritize worldly comforts and material possessions over spiritual well-being. It highlights the insidious nature of sin, how it blinds us to truth, distorts our priorities, and ultimately leads us away from God. Jesus' response to the townspeople's request is not recorded in Matthew's Gospel. However, Mark 5:18-19 and Luke 8:38-39 note that the formerly possessed man, overwhelmed with gratitude and eager to follow Jesus, is instructed to return home and share his story. This seemingly counterintuitive directive reveals Jesus' understanding of the human heart and his strategic approach to spreading the gospel. By sending the freedman back into the community that had rejected him in his possessed state, Jesus creates a powerful witness, a living testament to his power to transform lives and offer true freedom. This man, now a disciple in his own right, becomes a fisher of men among his own people, embodying the very message of hope and redemption that the townspeople initially rejected. The episode of the Gerasene demoniac, then, transcends a simple exorcism story. It unveils profound truths about the nature of faith, the pervasiveness of sin, and the universality of Jesus' mission. Firstly, it reveals that true faith requires more than acknowledging Jesus' identity. Even demons recognized him as the Son of God, yet their knowledge did not lead to transformation or salvation. True discipleship necessitates a change of heart, a willingness to surrender our will to God's, and a commitment to embodying His love and compassion in our interactions with the world. Secondly, it exposes the insidious nature of sin and its power to warp our priorities. The townspeople's preference for their pigs over Jesus mirrors our own tendency to cling to material comforts, economic security, and familiar patterns, even when they hinder our spiritual growth and prevent us from experiencing true freedom. Finally, it affirms the universality of Jesus' message. Despite occurring in a Gentile territory, amidst cultural and religious practices considered taboo by Jewish law, Jesus extends His grace and healing power without hesitation. This encounter foreshadows the eventual inclusion of the Gentiles in God's redemptive plan, breaking down the barriers of ethnicity, culture, and tradition to create a new community united in Christ. This inclusive message is echoed throughout the New Testament. Paul, in Romans 12:1-2, urges believers to resist conforming to worldly patterns and instead embrace a transformation of the mind, a renewing of their perspective that aligns with God's will. This transformation requires a conscious rejection of the world's values, including its obsession with material wealth and fleeting pleasures, and a commitment to seeking God's guidance in all aspects of life. Paul, in Ephesians 2:11-18, celebrates the breaking down of barriers between Jews and Gentiles through Christ's sacrifice. This new community, formed not by ethnicity or religious heritage, but by faith in Jesus, reflects the all-encompassing nature of God's love and His desire to reconcile all humanity to Himself. This theme of inclusivity continues in the book of Acts, where the gospel message spreads beyond Jewish borders, reaching diverse cultures and peoples. The Apostle Peter, initially hesitant to share the gospel with Gentiles, receives a vision in Acts 10 that revolutionizes his understanding of God's plan. This vision reveals that God's grace is not confined to any one group, but is available to all who believe, regardless of background or cultural heritage. Therefore, the seemingly isolated incident in the Gerasenes region holds profound implications for the Christian faith. It serves as a powerful reminder that God's love and offer of salvation are available to everyone. The true obstacle, as evidenced by the townspeople's reaction and our own struggles with sin, lies not in God's willingness to redeem, but in our willingness to be redeemed. The challenge for us, then, becomes a matter of aligning our hearts and actions with God's will, even when it demands sacrifice, challenges our comfort zones, or disrupts our carefully constructed realities. It requires an honest assessment of our priorities, a willingness to relinquish our grip on material possessions and fleeting pleasures, and a commitment to embracing the transformative power of God's grace. As followers of Christ, we are called to emulate His example, extending grace freely, recognizing the inherent worth of every individual, and sharing the message of redemption without reservation. Only then can we truly live out the truth embodied in the Gerasene demoniac story, that salvation and God's truth are freely available to all who are willing to receive them, regardless of their past, their mistakes, or the perceived value of their pigs. The episode of the Gerasene demoniac offers several crucial lessons for those seeking to follow in Jesus' footsteps. Jesus' authority over evil. The story underscores Jesus' absolute authority over the spiritual realm. He commands legions of demons with a word, demonstrating that no force of evil can withstand His power. Transformation and redemption. The demoniac's healing offers a powerful image of transformation and redemption. What was once broken and tormented is made whole and peaceful. Jesus' encounter with the possessed man is a beacon of hope for all those trapped in darkness, reminding us that no life is beyond the reach of God's love and mercy. The fear of change. The townspeople's fear highlights our inherent resistance to change, even when that change is for the better. We can become so accustomed to our own limited perspectives, our fears, and our material preoccupations that we fail to recognize the transformative power of God's presence in our lives. The call to witness. Jesus instructs the healed man to return to his community, not to follow him directly. This emphasizes the importance of personal testimony, of sharing our own experiences of God's transformative power as a means of spreading the gospel message. In conclusion, the episode of the Gerasene demoniac is more than a historical curiosity or a supernatural thriller. It is a timeless parable that speaks to the deepest longings of the human heart. It reminds us that we serve a God who confronts darkness, who heals the brokenhearted, who sets captives free. It challenges us to confront our own fears, to embrace the transformative power of faith, and to become ambassadors of hope and healing in a world desperately in need of both. The episode of the Gerasene demoniac and the pigs, far from being a mere historical curiosity, offers timeless lessons for those seeking to navigate the complexities of faith and life in a world often shrouded in spiritual darkness. This encounter, vividly recounted in the Gospels, not only showcases Jesus' undeniable power over evil, but also serves as a mirror, reflecting our own responses to the divine and the choices we make when confronted with the transformative power of the gospel. One crucial takeaway is the importance of recognizing the reality of evil. Just as the demons instantly recognized Jesus' authority, we too must acknowledge the existence of spiritual forces that seek to influence our thoughts, actions, and relationships. This awareness isn't meant to instill fear, but rather to cultivate a sense of vigilance, prompting us to guard our hearts and minds against deception and temptation. The fate of the pigs, driven to destruction by the demons, provides a stark visual representation of sin's devastating consequences. This event reminds us that sin, if left unchecked, has a corrosive effect not only on our own lives, but also on the well-being of our communities. It underscores the urgency of rooting out unclean influences in our own hearts, seeking forgiveness and restoration through Christ's redeeming grace. Despite the unsettling reality of evil's presence in the world, the narrative offers profound reassurance. It reminds us that no matter how powerful or persuasive demonic forces may seem, they are ultimately subject to God's sovereign will. This truth, when embraced, becomes a source of unwavering hope and strength for believers navigating the inevitable spiritual battles of life. We are reminded that we do not fight alone. The God who commanded the legions of demons to depart still holds ultimate authority over all creation. The healed man's dramatic transformation from a tormented soul bound by demonic chains to a peaceful witness clothed in his right mind vividly illustrates Jesus' power to change lives. This miracle, far from being a mere spectacle, highlights the transformative potential of encountering Christ. Just as he brought healing and restoration to the demoniac, so too can he bring wholeness and peace to hearts and lives fractured by sin, addiction, or despair. The healed man's subsequent mission, entrusted to him by Jesus, adds another layer of significance to the story. By sending him back to his community to share his testimony, Jesus emphasizes the vital role of personal witness in spreading the gospel. We, like the former demoniac, are called to share our own stories of redemption, demonstrating through our words and actions the transformative power of God's grace. However, the episode doesn't shy away from showcasing the complexity of human responses to the divine. The townspeople's fear and ultimate rejection of Jesus, despite witnessing his miraculous power firsthand, serve as a cautionary tale. Their response reminds us that encountering the divine often disrupts our comfortable routines, challenges our preconceived notions, and demands a choice. Like the townspeople, we too can allow fear, doubt, or a preoccupation with worldly concerns to overshadow the transformative opportunities presented by faith. In conclusion, the story of the Gerasene demoniac and the pigs transcends its historical context to offer a timeless message of hope, warning, and challenge. It beckons us to confront the reality of evil in our world while clinging to the reassuring truth of God's ultimate sovereignty. It reminds us that transformation is possible, that chains can be broken, and that lives can be made new through an encounter with Christ. And finally, it compels us to examine our own hearts, ensuring that we do not, like the fearful townspeople, choose the fleeting security of the familiar over the life-altering power of faith. Thank you for accompanying us on this journey. We'd love to hear your views on today's story, so leave a comment below. For those who are passionate about diving into the secrets of the Bible, make sure to subscribe and continue with us as we explore this remarkable and somber past.